Welcome to another episode of Kiss My Assets.
The transparency, the openness, the communication is more than you could expect. I'm sold.
Don't let the fact that you don't know something or don't know enough about something hold you back.
I knew I wanted to invest. What better way to invest than to invest in what I already know that I love, which is real estate.
It was initially the 12% return, but it quickly turned into the people.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Kiss My Assets. I'm Jamison Manwaring, co-founder, CEO at Neighborhood Ventures, and excited to have John with me as well. He is also the co-founder, president of real estate at Neighborhood Ventures. So welcome back on the podcast, John.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't known you forever.
We use the podcast as the time to talk about everything. So we were supposed to start recording 15 minutes ago. We've been talking about a bunch of other things today. So
just too many good things going on.
Yeah. And today we're going to talk about one of our projects. We call it Venture on 19th. We bought this project about a year ago. It's a 41-unit building on 19th between Indian School and Camelback, near Campbell. The property, when we bought it, was not in need of a full-blown renovation like some of our properties. It was already generating cash flow, and we had some ideas of ways we could increase that cash flow. And for folks who aren't familiar with the project, I want to just kind of give them a little bit of a background. We bought it a year ago. We've been paying 6% monthly cash distributions to our investors since we bought it. And then we've done some things to enhance the value, and I want to kind of turn over to you. We did some of the patios, and now we're also doing washer and dryers. But if you can kind of tell us where we're at on some of those initiatives that we started.
Yeah, we every project's got its own things. We did more over there than that. So our lender, we put a traditional loan on there. We didn't do a bridge loan on that or a construction loan. And our lender required us to get some things done. When they did their inspections of the property, they said, a little suspect of the roof. We're a little concerned about the parking lot. And then I think those are the two main things they came back with. So our roofs were fine, but there are some spots because we had pigeons there. Another thing I'll bring up. There's some spots that look kind of worn out, and it was just pigeon poop staining on the property. So we redid the roofs as far as we recoated them, we cleaned them, coated them, and now they look good. And then we coated our parking lots, which is what the lender wanted. And then, of course, in that process, we did some pigeon removal, put up some things that will keep pigeons from coming back to some areas, because we are one of the taller buildings in the neighborhood, and pigeons like to go to the taller buildings.
It's funny because John's kind of like a bird expert as far as pigeons, because it's been such an issue with apartments.
Yeah.
What do pigeons do? Why don't you want them there? Because obviously they poop over stuff, which is gross. But do they peck on stuff? Can they actually deteriorate?
They cause all kinds of problems. I met with a guy that actually raises pigeons and races them, and he has no love for these pigeons, but he loves his pigeons that he works with, and he explained everything about them. Main thing is that once a pigeon homes, once it's there on the roof, and within 2 weeks of it being born, it homes, it aligns its own internal GPS system, it always comes back there. And what do they do to the property? You got to remember their excrement is heavy with acid, and it eats through stuff. They're known to carry bed bugs, lice, ticks, just really, really messy and cause a lot of problems. They clog up drains. So to have them not sit on top, I don't mind if they're in the trees. I don't mind if they're on a covered parking, but on the building, it causes all kinds of problems with the roofing. So we've learned to deal with them and what things work and what things don't work.
And some of the remedies for pigeons that we've used, you can talk about some of your favorites, but I know we've done some wire meshing. I've seen some pretty scary spikes on buildings and ledges before to keep the pigeons away. What stuff do you like the best?
And it's a combination of things you have to do. It's just like getting rid of bugs on a property. There's different layers you go through. Spikes work good in some areas, but you'd be surprised how crafty these birds are, and they will build a nest on top of spikes over time.
They use it as a foundation for their nest.
I don't know how they do that. And then even the chicken wire you put in areas, I don't know how these things have that strength, but they will tear apart chicken wire over time. So there's chicken wire. There's also simple things like called bird wire. You just string a piece of filament, like fishing line, along the top edge of the roof, the top wall of it, and it keeps them from landing on it. And they don't really want to be in the flat surfaces. They want to be on the edges, and that helps a lot too. So it's a combination of things you do. Plus, you got to keep up on the roof maintenance. Get up there, wash it down, clean it up, and it's a regular, ongoing basis process. So we had to get rid of the pigeons.
Yep.
Recoated the roofs, did the parking lot, replaced our signage.
We have a great sign out there, a nice metal sign that has kind of that rust art. I don't know what you would call that.
There was one there before just like it, but we just had to replace it with our name on it. We had
That's
a
right.
friend of ours that does that metal work for us. We had some things we didn't expect come up. We had a carport that was getting pushed by some of the trees, so we had to remove a couple trees, fix the carport, straighten it. We had as we were going through and doing some work on units, we had to shut off water sometimes for stuff. We found out that the buildings themselves didn't have individual water shutoffs, and then we went to shut off the water at the valve where it comes into the property.
Main valve, yeah.
The main valve, and that wasn't working. When you turned it off, it didn't actually stop the water. So then we had to go through this whole process again. COVID issues played a big part of it. Trying to get the city of Phoenix to schedule a time when they could bring their guys out to shut the water off. There's actually a shut-off valve in the middle of the street on properties. So they had to go out and shut that off, shut down the building. And then the city replaced the water meter and valve. And then once that all that project was done, we then had to go in and put valves on each individual building, which allows us to shut things down and fix things as we need to. So again, these things are important to us for operations because we get a leak. God forbid we got a leak before, we had no way to shut things off. We would have basically had to call the city to come out in the middle of the street and shut things off. So that could have been a disaster.
And those are the things that when you're doing the due diligence, you may not necessarily discover that. Prior owner never made that change, but as we started digging in, we actually discovered it because we were starting to add the washer and dryers. We needed to shut off the in some of the units that needed
new valves.
Needed the new valves. And,
yeah, so the valves are dated, so we're putting new ones in, and the new better valves. And as we were doing that, we found out that things were working. But I don't think the old owner knew that valve, that the shutoff wasn't working. It's just unless you shut off the water, you wouldn't have known it.
Right.
So we have stuff like that happen. We also had an issue where we had people that were coming onto the property and doing bad things. And when I mean bad things, drinking, sleeping in places.
And these are folks that don't live there.
That don't live there. And they were coming on the property, and the residents it was bothering the residents. But we ended up having to put cages, what I would call them, gates, underneath the stairwells. Because what would happen is later at night, we'd have people come off of 19th Avenue or off the canal or something in that area, which happens in urban areas, and they would sleep underneath the stairwells. Everything you can imagine happens when you're there and kind of taking up camp there overnight, garbage and other things that they do. But more importantly, it was really scaring some of the residents.
Right.
And it's not fair to them to have to deal with that. There's kids in that property. So we went in and put gates, or we call them cages, that keep people from going into the stairwells. I mean, imagine walking out of your apartment one night and all of a sudden seeing somebody under the stairwells. I mean, that's like a bad movie.
Right.
So we did that. That wasn't not a big expense, but it was important to do. We upgraded our lighting on the outside. A lot of the lighting, including the post lighting, that's paid for as part of our electric bill with APS or SRP. The lights were everywhere, but the bulbs were burned out. So we called the utility company. They came out and replaced them all. And then we replaced the lighting on the outside of the building, which had spotlights. We replaced them with LEDs that shine down, that look better, use less electricity, lights up the property. We painted the building, obviously.
Yep.
We cut back some of the landscaping.
And we also did add those private patios on the north side.
That's right. Big thing we did.
I think there was 8 there that had their door went right out to the main street.
Right.
And there was no privacy there, so we added those private patios. So now those get a nice upgrade in.
And the residents when we asked them, we surveyed the ones that are there, they said, we'd love to have this here. Because every night they had to bring their kids' toys in and stuff. They said, we just want a little more privacy.
Yeah.
I know there's some other things we did. We're doing some landscape upgrades. Again, the property's doing well. It's affording us to do some things to the property. But probably the biggest change that we've had that's made the biggest impact beyond all that stuff is putting an on-site manager back on the property.
Right.
We purchased the property. There was a manager who on the previous ownership was there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. And we thought that was overkill. And then based on our property manager's assessment of the property, and then as we started going through the operations over the last year, we realized we need to have someone on that property, both for leasing, overseeing some things in the neighborhood. The canal has a certain amount of walk through. It's a great attribute, and over time it's going to get better and better. But there are people that come off the canal and walk through the property, and sometimes they're causing problems or pulling stuff out of the garbage cans or
and this is urban living, so
and I totally get it.
Very, very normal in this area, but we, as a property owner, we have to have things in place to deal with this because it's the way that it is.
And the reality is, as you have people in general walking through the property, which generally is not a problem, but when you have you're going to have a certain amount of criminal activity that follows that when that happens. So just to have someone on the property going, hey, I'm sorry, you can't do that. You can't stay there. You can't, I don't know what else has happened on the property, but anything that happens in a normal setting, you can't do that. So we had some criminal activity that was going on that having an on-site manager who takes responsibilities there all the time.
And they actually live on site as well.
Yeah, she lives on site. Big change. The residents are very happy. And that's going to make a big change to us. And because the property's doing better and better and better, it's a rounding error for us now. It's a non-issue as far as costs. Yeah.
And I remember talking about this at the beginning because it's a 41 unit building. Typically that doesn't merit having a full-time person there. The good thing with this situation is that full-time person can live there. They still manage some other units off the site so that they're still optimizing their time. But having them there at this particular property has made a big difference. And then the big value add here is we have 26 units that were set up for washer and dryers, but they were never added. So we're adding a couple of them. I think a couple of them did have them in place, but we're adding brand new washer and dryers there, and that's
we're upgrading the valves because they were the old ones you twist over and over and over, and those things go bad. I think those are called gate valves. And we're putting in the new ones that are ball valves, and just because we're going to do that, we might as well replace them. Putting the washer and dryers in, it's a thing that people want, and especially some families that's just a big benefit for you. And of course, you get some more rent. But the interesting thing is, because the markets move so quickly as far as rent increases, we could achieve the rent goals we had set out and surpass them without even doing that.
Right.
And beyond that, a lot of the residents, when we've gone to them and said, hey, your rents are going up, we're kind of hoping that one or two of them would have moved and then come back in after we did put the washer and dryer in. They didn't. They didn't want. They're like, no, we're just fine. Leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
So we're surpassing our rent goals, our budget, our pro forma, without even having to do some of those upgrades. Though we are doing it because I think it's a great thing for the property and it adds more value to it over time.
Yeah, and in this property, 26 are larger one bedrooms. Then we have 15 smaller one bedrooms. The smaller ones, there's not really a spot. There was never a spot for washer and dryer.
It was never set up for it.
So we still have a community washer and dryer. Has a great pool. I drove by the property actually over the weekend, and I love the idea of living there, and you can walk right out to the canalscape, which when we bought the property, we did this. You and I and Rocky were on scooters riding around there. I don't know if you remember that, but
and I love that. Again, I love that canal. I love urban stuff. I love the way it's developing. It's just we're dealing with things. If you don't have someone on site, we're dealing with stuff like that. Well, we also put doors on the garbage enclosures.
Right.
Same thing. We're having problems. We're I don't know who is showing up and doing this, but dropping off furniture in the garbage enclosures and then dumping stuff there. And it wasn't our residence. And we're like, all right, if we have a gate in front of it, it limits some of that. So
yeah, this is like apartment ownership 101, right? Yeah. So you deal with the issues as they come up. when we bought the property, we had a plan to increase the value in each of the units by adding the washer and dryers, by adding the private patios, these other things. And then a year later, we've done a bunch of other things that we've done because it's come up. And this is something you've taught me, is you have to own the property and see the conditions on the ground, and then you make adjustments as you go.
Right. You got to see, and I've said this also. Sometimes maybe you don't have to go through with the whole plan. Like we would have met and exceeded our rent expectations, which increases our value to where we wanted at this point without without doing much to it except what our lender.
The market's been our friend. Yeah.
Right. So, but in my mind, they already have the washer and dryer hookups. Let's put those in. Let's add that value. Let's make it a better place to live, and then all these other things make it easier to run for us. When you put the doors on the trash enclosures, we had to upgrade the lighting. The lighting was old. A lot of it wasn't working and was therefore ineffective. And it makes the residents feel safer. And then we're doing some landscaping stuff. We're putting some rocks in bigger rocks in some areas because we're finding that a lot of kids on the property are kicking around the rocks. And the kids are they're actually really good kids. Some of them are the children of but they're running around because they want a place to play and they're kicking around all the gravel. So rather than having them keep cutting through and kicking the gravel around, we're putting some rocks in that don't get kicked around so easily.
Right.
Just, little things like little tweaks on a property. And that's how you keep getting better and better at it.